The Tampa Bay Lightning return to Amalie Arena with a chance to start climbing up the division ladder with a few games in hand. Will the scorching hot Lightning first line help the Bolts to victory? We'll preview the action and more on today's episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Lightning. Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's show is brought to you by the College Football Playoffs. The College Football Playoffs is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff, presented by Allstate, begins with 4 first-round games airing December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. And the Lightning hope to take this game to the max tonight, a rematch against the Columbus Blue Jackets after a November 21st somewhat shocking loss for the Lightning. 7-6, the final score. The Bolts were outshot 43-30 in that one, a game where Nikita Kucherov provided 3 helpers. But this was part of the time that Nick Paul was injured, among a couple other guys banged up for the Lightning. And it was just not a game that went their way that day, coming off a 3-game win streak off of the Andrei Vasilevsky hype of getting his 300th career win in record time. But it didn't go things didn't go their way that day. But the Lightning, again, coming off of a heater. They're coming off of a very successful West Coast road trip where they scored 18 goals in 4 games and raised their goals per game average to 4, the only team in the league with as high of an average. The Lightning have just been scorching hot over the last couple of months. And it's been an offensive exhibition in most games for Tampa Bay. But this was a drop loss that the Lightning, I don't think just want to avenge, but frankly need to avenge. You know, a fluke loss to a team that's pretty low in the standings, the Blue Jackets at 29 points, which is 5 behind the Lightning with 3 more games played, but it does put them last in a tightly packed Metropolitan Division. But this is a team that you wouldn't think compares to the level of the Lightning. It was not a team that the Bolts were expected to lose to. It's a team that they're favored again to beat at home. But what's I think more important is a win, the next 2 games at home against Columbus for the season series. The final one is on March the 4th at Amalie Arena as well. It's one thing if game 1 didn't go your way, still early in the season, you know, a lot of coming off another overtime game, a lot of traveling, going from Pittsburgh to Columbus. You can avenge that first loss with a strong win here. Because playoff teams like the Lightning aspire to be just need to beat teams on the bottom of the table. You know, a 4-goal second period like they allowed against Columbus when they were in Columbus, just not acceptable. And the Lightning seem to be on the up and up in terms of injuries. Declan Carlisle, Steven Santini, both sent down to Syracuse. They could still get called up, but this close, a day before game time, a day before a home game, I can't imagine a cross-country trip, a second cross-country trip is too likely. It's possible, and we'll have some updates from the injury front as soon as we can at the game tonight. But the injury bug seems to have worn off. the Lightning couldn't have made those moves without expecting that they'll have a full complement of defenders. Sending both of those defenders back means that I would expect Hedman and Moser fully healthy for the game against Columbus. Obviously, anything can happen. Hopefully, but with no setbacks, you'd hope that Hedman and Moser will be back, and that is pretty key because those two guys can really change the scope of a game defensively. And Columbus is a team that is 30th defensively when it comes to goals allowed, which means they've stayed in games primarily on their offense. 11th in the league in goals per game. Lightning, as I mentioned first. So, the Blue Jackets already won an offensive battle against the Lightning. Tampa can't let that happen again. They really have to clamp down back at home. I think that extra day of rest for Andrei Vasilevskiy is certainly going to help as well. But the Lightning can't just say, hey, we had a really great road trip. They can't just ride the wave and expect to roll over Columbus again, because I think that might have been part of what happened. I mean, it was just a rough night, and they have to get past it. They quickly did. But now, it's a different point of the season. Things change. The team might look the same. Players might be the same, but, momentum shifts. Team's hot streaks kind of shift a little bit, but the fact remains the Lightning are still, putting themselves in a good position to make a playoff run. The Blue Jackets are not. So, frankly, this just is a game that the Lightning, they need to win. They don't necessarily need to roll over them, but you're hoping for a fully healthy lineup and just the Lightning to continue this build upon the success they've had in their last few games. They've won 6 out of their last 10, but 4 out of their last 5, including 3 of 4 on the road trips. Meanwhile, Blue Jackets are winless in their last 4 and have only won 3 games in their last 10. 2 of those losses came in overtime, though, to add some points. But again, especially against a team you've already lost to by a wide margin, ending snapping their 4-game losing streak in your own house just would not be acceptable. And the Blue Jackets have just had a busy month. I think that's what's contributed to their tough, their tough go of it in the last 10, because of those last 10 games, 9 of them have been played in the month of December. It's the 17th. That's pretty much a game every other day for the Blue Jackets. So, and it's been a lot of travel. They started December a week on the road. They were at home for most of last week, and they're coming off of a loss in Carolina. And now they've got Tampa before they go back home for a game. I mean, it's been a rough go of it, schedule-wise, for Columbus. The Lightning are coming off of a road trip where, they went back-to-back every day. They had a day off on Monday, well-deserved, and then they can get right into it for the 2 games this week, a little bit of a rest again before Florida. So I think the Lightning are really in a good position to, keep their momentum going with those extra rest days. I think that definitely helps the Lightning get healed up. It seems like it certainly did on the Bolts defense. And now, the Lightning guys can hopefully stay hot through the couple of days off and beat a team that I think that they should beat. You don't want to call this kind of game like a must-win game, but it would be a really huge blow to the team's confidence, I think, if they lose another one to Columbus. I mean, I think they know this is a team that they should beat, and it's a team that I certainly expect the Lightning to win. I expect that they'll win pretty big, too. I'm going to go 5-2 Bolts. If you guys have different predictions, feel free to lay them out in the comments or on X at @LO_Lightning. We'll be checking that profile as the day goes on. And the Lightning have been checking out their division, and it seems like there is a path to the top. And if everything goes right, that path could begin this week. We'll talk about the Atlantic Division when we return here on Locked On Lightning. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Bilt, you can now earn points on rent payments, just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Bilt points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points for your flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. So access unique experiences that are exclusive to Bilt members. Start earning points today on rent that you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbuilt, BILT.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait and start earning rewards at Bilt today. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs and in as little as 15 minutes. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest, best version of you. SelectQuote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl to get started. Selectquote.com/lockedonnhl and start living right today. We are back here on Locked On Lightning and talking about the Atlantic Division. And I say that the Lightning have a path to the top because they have played fewer games than anyone in their division. They've got a makeup game against Carolina that's coming in January, and it just means they might have a little bit more backloaded of a schedule. 4 games fewer than the Bruins, who are 1 point ahead of the Bolts right now, 3 more losses and another overtime loss. 3 games fewer played than the Florida Panthers, 18-11-2, 38 points, second in the division, and the Maple Leafs, who it might be tough to catch, at 40 points. Now, obviously, the Lightning are going to need a lot of help to get up to the top of the division with other teams losing and all, but you know, they're playing 2 teams kind of on the lower end of the rung this week. They got the Blues, who jumped up to 6th in the Central, with 2 more games played than the Utah Hockey Club. They have the same amount of points at 33. And that Central Division has not seen a whole lot of movement. And then obviously we talked about the Columbus Blue Jackets, who were last in the Metropolitan Division. These are, again, both 2 teams that I'll say a lot today, and I'll say a lot again on Thursday's show before the Blues game. These are 2 teams that the Lightning just should be better than. And they get 2 teams towards the lower end of the division before they have a home against their rival Florida Panthers, who this week play the Blues the day after the Lightning get them. But before that, they had a game in Minnesota last night, and then a game against the Wild on Wednesday. A game in Edmonton, and then a game in Minnesota against the Wild on Wednesday before the Blues game, and then before the Lightning game. The Bruins also have 3 games this week. Tomorrow, a contest against Calgary on the road. They're on the road against Edmonton, and then they're back home against Buffalo. And I think if you compare the schedules, the Lightning have the easiest between those teams this week. And, you know, it seems kind of weird to be talking about division standings at this point right now, but I think it's an important benchmark for a team like the Lightning just to show where they rank in a division that may have been dominated by the same four teams, the Bruins, the Panthers, the Leafs, over the past few years, but that doesn't lessen the quality at the top of the division, and it doesn't lessen how difficult it is for a team to win any division. But, you've got the defending Stanley Cup champions in the Panthers and the Maple Leafs, who a lot of teams consider as Stanley Cup contenders, and who the Lightning have already seen beat them pretty soundly twice. That comeback in the last game against Toronto definitely showed some heart, but it showed a final score of a game that really was squarely in the Maple Leafs' favor. And, we've talked about the doubters for the Lightning that have been there this whole season. After the Stamkos trade, after the Sergachev trade, people just really didn't know what to make of a new look Lightning team with a lot of the same bones, but some key pieces gone. And I think the Lightning in a lot of ways have exceeded expectations. While that seems like pretty high praise for a season that has them fourth right now in their division, but again, the games in hand really give them a chance to kind of jump up, and it's going to be really key. We're going to talk on Friday a lot more about those Panthers games, but I mean that home and home I think is just going to be absolutely crucial. And these two games I think are important for the Lightning to climb up. It's the Bruins, the Panthers are still kind of equaling them, and in the Bruins case, they'll be up to four more games by the time the Lightning play them. And the Panthers, the Bruins, I think, will have played an extra game as well. I mean, the Lightning they still got to get to that 82, and all teams do. And even with a couple fewer games played than the rest of their division, they're still keeping pace with just about everyone. They're still keeping pace with and at a playoff potential. And do I think at the end of the season, I don't know if the Lightning are going to win the division by the end of the season. I think it's certainly a possibility. The games obviously have to balance up, but I still really think that it's going to be a dogfight between the Leafs and the Panthers. But the way they're playing this season, it really does seem like Toronto's division to lose. Saying the Lightning do not have a chance to win the division, I think is just wrong, and it means you haven't watched a lot of this team. I mean, this is a team that they just want to win. They have enough guys with a lot of playoff experience that knows what it takes to win the division, that knows what it takes to go deep in the playoffs, that, are a little bit frustrated with getting bounced out in the first round last year and a couple of earlier playoff exits than this core has been accustomed to. But I think now is a really good chance to get themselves, coming off of a road trip where they blasted through a couple of the better teams in the Western Conference and just played really great all-around hockey games. Taking 3 of 4 wins on a full week on the road, that's just it takes a toll on the player. It's not an easy trip to go through, but the Lightning battled through that, and now they have 2 on paper very winnable games at home, where they are one of the better teams on home ice in the NHL, against 2 teams that you'd think they should be able to beat anywhere. And this game against Columbus tonight, I think, is a big first step. They haven't played the Blues yet this year. Columbus, they have. That was a game that I'm sure they all want back. And tonight, in a way, they get a chance to avenge it. So you certainly want the Lightning to pick up both of those home wins against Columbus, and they've got to do it tonight. I certainly know that they can. And again, I think that they will. But I think this week just gives the Lightning a really good opportunity to start threatening Florida and Toronto a little bit. If they can get these 2 wins, get on a nice 4-game win streak before they go play Florida for 2 games, get them with some good momentum, take the game at Amalie on Sunday, hopefully maybe even steal one in Miami the day after. It's an exciting time, I think, for the Lightning, because they can really, with the big week this week, the 2 games and then the home game against Florida, the big 3 games at home, I think, could really make a statement for Tampa that they are still here, that they're still a legitimate threat and contender in the Eastern Conference in the playoffs. And a big reason that the Lightning are such a threat is that first line. Jake Gensel, offseason acquisition extraordinaire, Braden Point, and Nikita Kucherov. All 3 of them have been on some big-time streaks over the last couple of days and the last couple of games. And we are going to go through who is hotter right now. Braden Point, Jake Gensel, and Nikita Kucherov. Get ready to tackle all the sports action you can with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. They do have NHL games on there, though. The Lightning with a plus 102 line, favored at home against the Blue Jackets. The over-under is set at 6.5. Money line is minus 245 on the Lightning. So the Bolts favored to beat the Blue Jackets at Amalie Arena later tonight. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have enjoyed some recent success. A big part of their road success and the fact that they've won 4 out of 5 in December has been due to their big 3, Gensel, Kucherov, and Point. And as I mentioned, all 3 of them are riding a big-time hot streak. Jake Gensel is one of 2 players in the NHL this season on a 6-game goal streak, or who has had a 6-game goal streak. The last player, a fellow Bolt, Anthony Cirelli. That ended back in November. And in those last 6 games, Jake Gensel has continued to pass the puck as well, but not as well as Braden Point, who has 4 goals and 11 assists in his last 5 games, 15 points over that span. And Gensel has 8 goals over his 6-game goal streak. Point has risen up towards the top, right behind Leon Draisaitl for the NHL goal lead, 16 assists as well, put him in the top 5 on the Lightning. And then Nikita Kucherov continues to be the star that he is, points in all but a small handful of games this season. And in his last 7 games, Nikita Kucherov has recorded 17 points. He also needs 4 assists to become the second player this season to pass Marty St. Louis' assist record, to make second most assists behind his teammate Victor Hedman. And that is something that John Cooper, Victor Hedman both said was going to be coming. That Cooch was just inevitably going to catch him, and it could happen during the homestand this week. But if you look at just the couple of stretches, it's hard really to compare the runs that Nikita Kucherov goes on, because it's almost commonplace. And that's not saying it's any less impressive to see what he does on the ice. But if he has less than 2 or 3 points in the game, you're surprised. Like, you just expect Cooch to be involved in just about every offensive play for the Lightning, whether it's goal scoring or assists, both of which he is towards the top of the list for the Lightning. He leads the team in points with 46, up in the top 5 in the league as well, 4th on the team in goals, and 11 more assists than anybody else. And there are only 6 Lightning players that have more than 11 assists on the season. His whole season just continues to be an absolute masterclass in hockey. Jake Guentzel, when you look at his streak, I think part of what makes it so impressive is the story that goes behind it. The fact that, he was with the the Penguins for so long to start his career. Starting to hit his prime, he gets traded at the deadline as the Penguins struggled, has a great few games and playoff run with the Hurricanes, and then gets traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning not too long after the Stanley Cup ended. So 3 teams in a matter of months, and he is not skipped a beat and is off to one of the best starts and maybe one of his best NHL seasons. He's on pace to top 40 goals for the first time in his NHL career. He's on pace to set career highs really across the board. 57 combined assists last year and 30 combined goals in 67 games between the Penguins and the Hurricanes. He has scored 40 goals twice as a career high. The 47, not 57, 47 combined assists between Pittsburgh and Carolina is a combination for his career, is a career high. And Guentzel is currently at 14 assists on the season. So Guentzel on pace to have his best season, and this goal streak is just proof that he's really starting to click with those other Lightning forwards. And Braden Point is another guy like Nikita Kucherov, homegrown in the Lightning system, and has achieved superstar status over the last couple of seasons. He has had just a torrid run over the last few games, really since he came back from injury. He came back from injury with a couple of key power play goals and game-winning goals, which, by the way, the next game-winning goal and the next overtime goal will put him a level up on the leaderboards. An overtime goal makes him the most in Lightning history, passing Stamkos, and a game-winning goal passes Vincent Lecavalier for the third most. But Point has the 11 assists over the past 5 games, which I think for me is even more aggressive. Impressive. We've talked about Point, again, you don't want to take away from his ability as a passer because he's a great passer, but he's a guy who puts pucks in net. He's a goal scorer, and he is adapted. The Lightning line is just clicked so well together, and that's something that John Cooper acknowledged repeatedly after the win against the Kraken. And it's really shown because the entire Lightning first line is just on a wave that has helped Lightning to their best start to a month this season. And just a really successful run of play. I think when you look at which one of the hot streaks are most important to the team, I'd say that would be Guentzel's. Having the new guy, the next big star in Tampa, the big contract signed after that trade. That's just the level of play that you want to see from anyone. And Braden Point, to me, I think just continuing to impress me with his offensive ability is pretty impressive as well. But I mean, if I'm going to put a number on those, I'd go Kucherov it's so hard to rate his just because he does this on a nightly basis. I think Points is the streak that Points been on with the amount of points he's put in the net or helped get put in the net is really impressive. That magnitude, I think, deserves to be said. But I mean, it just amazes me to see how quickly Guentzel is assimilated to this new team and already turned into one of the best players. And, a lot of change of sceneries. And this year he is truly blossomed into one of the best players, not just on the Lightning, but in the NHL and in, the United States of America, getting that Four Nations nod. And that's something that we'll be watching for in February. But we'll be watching the game tonight. Thank you again for tuning in to Locked On Lightning and making Locked On Lightning your first show today. For your second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And I am Josh Sperber. That is my X account. We are at LO_Lightning on X. Feel free to give us a follow there. And please give us a like, a subscribe, a follow on whichever platform you decided to listen to today's show. Thank you very much for tuning in. And go Bolts. Enjoy the start to your week, everybody.